Hola, mi amigo.
Oh, there we go.
¿Cómo
I need
estás?
to turn on my headphones
Oh, yeah.
so I can hear you. I'm
That's
invading your personal space again.
Yep.
Welcome to the Greatest Lists podcast, a show about music and lists. This season, your hosts Jason and Eric are counting down the top 25 guitar solos of the 80s and the top 25 guitar solos of the 90s. Think your favorite made the list? Tune in and find out. Take it away, boys.
Welcome back to season 2 of Greatest Lists, a music and talk podcast featuring lists of the greatest songs of all time. I am Jason, your host for this episode. Joining me, as always, my co-host Eric. How are you, man?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Doing very well. We are just trucking along right here with the 90s, getting up to one of my favorite albums of the 90s, easily in my top 5. This song is off that album. Man, I cannot wait to talk about it. So we're going to get into it. Just a quick reminder, Spotify Premium, go out and grab it, man, so you can hear these songs as we're talking back to you here. But if not, we're glad you're here too, and find us on your favorite podcatcher of choice. Our next pick, we are doing the top 25 guitar solos of the 90s in this first half of season 2. And this one comes from 1992. At number 17 is the song Rest in Peace by Extreme.
Behind the music.
So the guitarist featured on this song is Nuno Betancourt. Say that about 5 times fast. Initially, he had little interest in music, wanting to become an actor and preferred to spend his time playing hockey and football. His first instrument was the drums, and he played them exclusively until his brother Louis started teaching him guitar. His professional career began when he joined the Boston-based band Extreme in 1985. They released 4 albums in a 6-year span between 1989 and 1995. Nuno is more than just the lead guitarist, though. He is also a pianist. He plays keyboards, organ, background vocals on most of the songs, and also produces the orchestration.
Man.
Just very, very talented.
Can you imagine if he did not go into music? I mean,
right.
What a freaking loss.
In 1997, as Extreme was on hiatus, Nuno released his first solo album, which is called Schizophonic. He actually began working on that 5 years earlier. And then in 1998, he formed the band Morning Windows, which feature his nephew Donovan on bass.
Mm-hmm.
They released 2 albums in 98 and 2000 and were successful mainly in Japan and, of course, the New England area, since they're all from Boston there.
Boston.
In 2001, he formed Population One, in which he played most of the instruments himself. He formed a touring band and later released an EP in 2004. But then due to legal issues, the band name changed to Drama Gods in 2005. And
Okay.
essentially dissolved in 2007 when Nuno and 2 others from the band joined Jane's Addiction's lead singer Perry Farrell for his new band called Satellite Party, and they released 1 album. Shortly after, Extreme reformed, and they have released 3 albums since then, with their 8th in the works right now. The new single is titled Rise. You can actually listen to it now, and it's ridiculous. Nuno, he just, from the interviews that I've read, he's kind of channeling his inner Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah.
And he wanted to, I don't know necessarily if it's a tribute to him, but he wanted to pay his respects, I guess you'll say, on this 8th album. And you can really hear it in that solo on Rise, which maybe we'll play for you at some point.
I can't wait to hear that whole album. It's going to be so good.
Nuno, also the primary artist on the soundtrack for the 2008 movie Smart People, which starred Dennis Quaid and Sarah Jessica Parker. I had not watched that movie or even
I hadn't even heard of that movie.
Heard of it, until doing the research for that. So interesting that he is now dabbled into soundtracks. So let's talk about some of Nuno's guest credits over the years, because he's gotten around too. Not quite as much as Dave Navarro, but he's credited with providing the rhythm guitar on Janet Jackson's Black Cat in 1989, but only for the single edit and the video mix. So it's weird. Like, if you look at the credits for that, he gets credit on a couple things there, but like not the
How weird.
the album. The
Also,
actual album mix. So
why would you have him play rhythm guitar and not the solo for that song?
Right?
I mean, seriously.
So another interesting one, he co-wrote and produced the song "Where Are You Going" by Extreme, which appeared on the Super Mario Brothers movie soundtrack back in the 90s.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, not to be confused with the new one, you know.
Yeah.
But he joined Robert Palmer in the studio for his album Honey. He's also written and recorded with Steve Perry, Tantric, Tony Braxton, and the Australian band Baby Animals. And he joined Rihanna on tour in 2009, and you might have noticed he reunited with her during the Super Bowl 57 halftime show this year.
I said that out loud, and my wife did not even know what I was talking about.
So, and as far as his setup goes, since 1990, he's been playing the Washburn N4, which he helped develop and is considered his signature model.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what he plays.
Let's get personal.
All right, so Rest in Peace comes from Extreme's third album titled Three Sides to Every Story. Most considered a flop, following up Pornography, which was double platinum, and Three Sides, it did get a gold record, so it sold 500,000 copies, but it was kind of a flop coming off of that mega hit that Pornography was.
Yep.
I'm not sure how it was introduced. I know Mom had the More Than Words single, so I was aware of the band, and I'm guessing maybe MTV, because I do remember watching the music video for this one and for Stop the World, which probably led to me buying the cassette. It's weird to think of it as a cassette, since it's more or less a concept album having 3 segments, so you had to flip the cassette during the second part of the albums. But later on I would go on and get the CD and get those songs more in context there. You're not flipping a cassette. But
right.
Anyway, I played the crap out of this album in high school. It was the soundtrack of my senior trip. We drove from Central PA to a small college in upstate New York, and then took a trek to Montreal. So that whole trip, I brought probably 2 or 3 cassettes with me, but this one was the one I played the most. And one of my close friends also enjoyed it, so we were kind of passing it around during the trip, as we do, trying to find new music and things, or your favorite albums maybe your friend has that you don't. So that was my senior trip, this album in my ear.
Nice.
And listen, I do not use this word much when you're talking about music, but to me, this album is a masterpiece.
Wow, that's high praise.
It is so good on it. There's so many different styles. I mean, there's full orchestra at times. The track Peacemaker Die has a good portion of Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech in it, which was probably the first time I was really exposed to more than a short clips on the radio or whatever they played back in the day. But there's a really long portion. They're playing the main groove, and you're hearing his speech over top of it. It's incredible. And then the album features like crazy effects too. There's like a music box at one point. The album starts with this drill sergeant yelling orders, and then there's this little kid voices.
I love that part.
Even on this song, you're playing audio at the end. That's this like playground, atmosphere with the kids. The song Cupid's Dead, there's actually a rap during the bridge. So I don't know. I love the lyrics. The lyrics are so meaningful throughout. You're talking about war and politics and religion, just life in general. so many elements incorporated into their, what I would call funky rock.
Yeah.
And there's so many different styles. You get the ballads, but you get the wailing too, just the pure, almost metal rock, that drives you. And then you'll just stop, and the three parts do kind of flow together. I mean, you get the rock really at the beginning in that first part of the album. In the middle is you get some ballads and more mellow stuff, and at the end is just kind of more concept stuff with the orchestra and all that. But oh gosh, I mean, there's so much about this album, and knowing that Nuno was behind a lot of those elements and orchestration and all that, it's just I don't know, it wows me, and it still wows me to this day. Anyway, what is your exposure to, I guess, Nuno in general, but like this album, the Three Sides album?
I probably would have to agree with what you said at the beginning, that I kind of considered it a flop because of how amazing Pornography was and how much I love that album. And we'll get into that probably next episode. But I still liked this album. But it was, to me, after hearing Pornography for a couple of years and just being in love with that album, hearing this, I was kind of let down. But with that said, I still loved it. And I mean, I still went and I saw them in concert for this album. So it wasn't like I was totally turned off. But it's got some great spots on it. I can't listen to it all the way through like I could the previous album, but it's got some great songs, like you said, Peacemaker Die. I like the first song, Warheads. That drill sergeant with intro is great. So I like it. It's just not to me it was a letdown because of just how amazing the previous album was. But this is probably one of my two favorite songs on the album. Is Rest in Peace. So.
Yeah, I actually probably discovered this album before I listened to the whole Pornography album. So that's probably why I like this one more than the other one. So I had the singles. Mom had
the singles. That's so
More
awesome.
Than Words and
Wholehearted.
Wholehearted. Yes, she had both of those. So that's what I knew. And then when I get to this and hear that they rock, and then I went back and finally got it, probably in a Columbia House deal. I was really impressed, with a lot of that stuff. So And what was your experience like seeing them in concert? Do you remember anything?
I mean, it was
memorable?
Gary Sharon is one of only two lead singers I've ever seen in concert that has a vocal solo in the middle. You know how everybody has like a guitar solo and a drum solo. He had a vocal solo. It was ridiculous. The guy could sing. That's why I was so excited when he went to Van Halen, because I was like, oh God, this is going to be amazing. And then it flopped. But their show was great. And they only did like 4 songs off of this album. Because it was brand new. I mean, it was just out, and they did more from their first and second albums.
Yeah.
But it was a great show. I mean, it was I can't remember who opened up for him. I think it was Enough's Enough, who was good in their own right, but Extreme was just, they were ridiculous. They're all, every one of those guys were talented in their, individual own rights. So if you put them all together, they can put on a great show no matter what they're playing. So.
Well, that's pretty crazy then, unless it was a smaller venue that they were headlining just with, one album under their feet. And they were. It was a smaller. It's called the Zoo Amp. It's an outside amphitheater at the Oklahoma City Zoo, and they were there with Enough's Enough. There was one other band too. I don't remember their name though. They were forgettable. Apparently.
Yeah, but I saw them live for the previous album too, for Pornography. I saw them twice in smaller venues for that too. So,
the breakdown.
All right, so. This solo is ridiculous. You can hear how fast his hands are moving, as you're listening to the solo for this song. But it's got such a great melody, and I can sing it in my mind. It's one of those songs we always talk about. If you can sing the solo, then you're doing something right.
Yep.
But I think what I really love is there's just a natural flow right back into that main hook when he finishes up the solo. Because that hook, you hear it right from the beginning and throughout the song, and to go right back into that, it just really flows, and then you're back into the like, I think it's like the pre-chorus part right after the solo, and then they're back into the chorus to end the song. But I've always loved the strings opening the song.
Yeah.
It's just so unique. And then I love how the bass guitar really syncs up with the bass drum, and it's just got a real crisp sound to it when he's hitting that bass and he's playing along the bass guitar with it.
Yeah.
It sounds really great. And then Nuno just has some tasty licks throughout the song too, and the lead stays up. Again, hearing this in my headphones, you can really get some more details in these songs. I've heard this song hundreds of times over the years, mainly in the car as it's blaring in my ears. But you can really hear that his lead guitar stays up throughout the song, and hear him under the verse and the pre-chorus and the chorus.
Right.
He just drives a lot of these songs, and instead of just coming in and doing a lick and getting out of like the verses and things, to hear him playing under there, I think adds a lot to the song. And then I love the acoustic fade up at the end too, with the playground noise, that fades out. But it's when one song shows their versatility beyond just, oh, hey, we're acoustic balladeers here. But they kind of go back to that first album at the end, and you start hearing, a little bit of More Than Words style right at the end of the song, which is
I love that
rock
part.
song.
Yeah.
So,
that acoustic part at the end, that's that's really great.
So what do you like about the solo and the song?
The solo, my favorite part of the solo is right at the end when he's doing that vamp on the outro before they go back into the chorus. He plays a little bit of the Voodoo Child lick at the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
I've always loved that he just kind of throws that in there. Wow, 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 wow. I love that part. But you're right though. I mean, he the solo is ridiculous. It's so, but the thing I like most about Nuno is how clean he plays, no matter how fast he plays.
Oh gosh, yeah.
It's not, a lot of guitar players will hide imperfections when they play fast by either using a lot of distortion or a lot of delay to kind of cover that stuff up. And he doesn't do that. I mean, you can tell how clean he plays while he's playing, a million miles an hour. So, that's just what has impressed me most about him since I discovered him and, off their first album. So, it's a great solo. Very technical, very, very fast. I mean, there's not a single Nuno solo I've ever tried to play. I mean, there's just no reason to do that and embarrass myself.
I just noticed too, really going back and watching videos this week and some live performances and things, how much he just uses all of his fingers up and down. He's not playing power chords, It's like he's hitting so many strings and using all of his fingers to bring out a melody that's a lot more technical than probably what most people hear. Yeah. And his guitar style is just amazing.
Yeah, he's got a huge amount of hand dexterity when he plays. He can skip strings. He plays fast. So even his licks that he plays on songs they're just ridiculous because he's so fast and so clean and has so much dexterity with the way he plays.
Yeah, it's amazing. Just, watch that hand. Even in the new video that I've been watching now for a few days, the new song, you can see how much he moves his hand.
Oh yeah.
And man, it's incredible. All right, well, Rest in Peace comes in at number 17 on our top 25 guitar solos of the 90s. As far as bonus songs go this time, I'm going to play that Stop the World song from Three Sides to Every Story, and it's got a great solo too. I just love the feel of that song, and it's got a false ending right in the middle when Gary screams "Stop!"
Yeah,
and it kind of the world, and they go right back into it, and I've always loved that part. It's such a great song. Also going to play a song from that Satellite Party band that Nuno joined up with Perry Farrell. The album that they released was called Ultra Payload. I had not heard this track before doing the research of this, but I really dig it. It's called Wish Upon a Dog Star.
Nice.
Real kind of funky, not what you would expect really from a rock band. And maybe that's Perry Farrell's influence.
Yeah, I think that's probably a lot of Perry Farrell.
I'm surprised I had not heard this song before because it's really fun. So we'll play it for you coming up here. Just stay tuned. You'll hear the bonus songs in their entirety if you're listening with Spotify Premium. Other Spotify users, if you got the free version, you'll hear a little bit of it. Otherwise, use the Song Whip links in the show notes, and that will connect you with the songs in your favorite music app. If you like the show, please subscribe, of course. Leave us a rating in your favorite app. Something we don't mention often is we're under that Retro Network umbrella, and would love for you to go over to Patreon and patreon.com/the Retro Network and help support all the network, all the shows under that umbrella, and us, and you get your name in the show notes and some other fun perks there. Talk to us over there on Slack, as we do pretty much every day, don't we?
Yeah.
It's a fun community over there on Slack for the Retro Network. All of our writers and podcasters.
It is.
And really enjoy that. You can find the Greatest Lists episodes online at greatestlistspodcast.com. And you can also find us on Twitter at Greatest Lists if you want to connect with us. Eric will take over hosting duties for the next show, which will be a first for Greatest Lists. We're actually going back to back. He hinted at it before there. We're going back to back with Extreme. So get ready for another dose as Eric takes over and talk a little bit more about the band's history and not necessarily Nuno like I did in this episode. And of course, we'll be talking about a different album as well. But thanks for listening to the Greatest Lists, and we look forward to continuing our list of the top 25 guitar solos of the 90s next time.
You've been listening to The Greatest Lists.